I spent over $100,000 on a woman who never truly loved me. She wasn't my girlfriend. Not really. She was hired to be, paid to hold my hand, laugh at my jokes, and pretend I meant something to her. And the worst part? I believed every second of it. There was a moment, under the glow of city lights on a rooftop with her whispering my name like a promise, when I swore I saw something real in her eyes. But I was wrong. All of it was fake. And when she left for good, I was left with nothing but the echo of her voice and the bill. To my loyal subscribers, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support means everything. If you haven't yet, please turn on notifications so you never miss a story that could change your perspective on love, loss, and the lessons hidden in heartbreak. And to those who are new here, hit that subscribe button to help me bring you more inspiring, dramatic, true life stories like this one. Now let me take you back to how it all began. My name's Ethan Cole, and this is not the kind of story I ever imagined myself telling. I'm 38 years old, born and raised in Denver, Colorado, though these days I call San Diego home. I built a tech company from the ground up and sold it before I turned 35. People told me I was living the dream, financial freedom at the downtown penthouse, and all the time in the world. But you know what they don't tell you about money? It doesn't keep you warm at night. It doesn't ask you how your day was. And it sure as hell doesn't look at you like you're the most important person in the room. After my last serious relationship ended, Claire, her name was, I stopped trying. She said I was emotionally cold. Said I loved my laptop more than I loved her. Maybe she was right. But when she packed up her things and left, something in me broke that I didn't know how to fix. I filled my days with silence. My nights with bourbon and late-night reruns of sitcoms I'd already seen 100 times. It was pathetic, but loneliness? Real, crushing loneliness? It'll make you do things you never thought you would. And for me, that meant hiring a girlfriend. It all started with a simple Google search. I typed in companionship services for busy professionals. That's how I justified it in my head. Not escort, not sugar baby, just company. A website popped up, clean design, no sleaze, almost professional. Emotional companionship, discretion guaranteed, customized experiences. It was called the Velvet Arrangement. Sounded classy, expensive, safe. I clicked. Dozens of profiles appeared. Beautiful women, polished, confident, charming. I wasn't looking for someone 20 years younger than me. I didn't want fake eyelashes and baby voices. I wanted someone who could sit across from me at a five-star restaurant and hold a real conversation. Someone who could pretend, just for a little while, that I mattered. Then I saw her. Sienna Blake. Long auburn hair. Green eyes that looked like they saw right through you. Her profile said she was 29, had studied theater in New York, and loved jazz. Something about her felt honest. Or maybe I just wanted it to be. I clicked Request Meeting. The agency set everything up. It was like hiring a personal assistant, professional, clean, expensive. Mr. Cole, the woman on the phone said, Sienna is one of our most requested companions. We require a 3-month minimum engagement. Base fee starts at $35,000. Any travel, overnights, or public events are considered premium add-ons. I didn't blink. I just said, send me the contract. We met at a rooftop bar in the Gaslamp Quarter. Late evening, soft music, the city lights flickering behind her like stars. She wore a red silk dress that fit her like it had been sewn just for her. Her smile, my God, it made my chest ache. Ethan, she asked, stepping forward like we were old friends. I nodded. Sienna. She smiled. It's good to finally meet you. She touched my hand when she sat down, looked at me when I talked, laughed when I said something stupid. She made me feel like I was the only man in that crowded rooftop. And the worst part? I forgot, for just a moment, that it wasn't real. That first night ended with a soft kiss on the cheek and her whispering, same time next week? I nodded like a fool. And so began a pattern. Dinners, jazz clubs, weekend getaways. She'd walk beside me, hand in hand, and I'd catch people looking at us like we were a real couple. Like I'd won the jackpot. But I hadn't won anything. I was just renting the dream. By the time the 3 months were up, I had already extended the contract. Twice. I added extras. Weekend trips, overnights, holidays. My accountant raised an eyebrow. I told him it was personal development. Truth was, I couldn't stand the idea of her not being around. In just a few months, I had spent over $60,000, and I was nowhere near done. Because the longer it went on, the more I began to believe it. Believe that Sienna actually cared. Believe that maybe, just maybe, this could turn into something real. But deep down I knew. I was in too deep, and I hadn't even hit bottom yet. There's a dangerous kind of peace that comes with pretending. I knew what Sienna was. I knew I was paying her. But the longer we kept up the charade, the more I let myself believe in the illusion. And she was perfect at it. You don't spend tens of thousands of dollars to feel like you're in a business transaction. You spend that kind of money to feel something real, even if it's a lie. And damn, she made it feel so real. Every Thursday night, like clockwork, she'd show up at my place, sometimes in a sleek cocktail dress, sometimes in jeans and a loose sweater that made her look like someone's dream wife. She'd curl up on my couch like she belonged there, like she wanted to be there. She knew how to read me. If I'd had a hard day, she'd pour 2 glasses of wine and ask me about it, gently like she cared. If I wanted to go out, she'd flash that dazzling smile and hang off my arm like we were the couple people envied. And when we went out, oh, people noticed. At one gala, a venture capitalist I used to pitch to pull me aside and said, "Ethan, you finally figured out how to balance work and romance. She's stunning, and she looks at you like you hung the moon." I smiled politely. Didn't tell him that moonlight cost me 10 grand a week. But my mind? That moment meant something. We spent a weekend in Napa Valley that fall. I booked a private villa on a vineyard. She showed up in a white summer dress and no makeup. Her hair was in a loose braid. We walked through the vines as the sun dipped below the hills. That night, after too much wine and soft jazz playing from a Bluetooth speaker, she looked at me across the table and said, "You're not like most men I've met in this job." I blinked. What's that supposed to mean? She tilted her head. "You're kind, gentle. You listen. Most guys want to control me. You just want someone to be close to." My chest tightened. "And you don't mind that?" She looked at me for a long time. "No, Ethan. I don't mind at all." For a few terrifying seconds, I thought she might kiss me. I wanted her to, more than anything. But instead, she reached for my hand. And in that moment, I was gone. After Napa, things changed. Or maybe it was just me. I started to forget she was being paid. I started imagining us beyond the contract. I pictured her at family holidays, curled up in my bed on rainy mornings, maybe even meeting my sister and her kids someday. The sick part? I thought she felt it too. She started texting me outside of work hours. Random things, photos of her coffee, a joke she saw online, asking if I'd eaten. Harmless, sure, but it was new, and I clung to it. One night, she sent a message that shook me. "Wish you were here." No context, just that. I stared at it for 10 minutes before I replied. "Where are you?" She said she was lying in bed alone, thinking about me. I remember staring at my phone like it was magic, like the screen held proof that love could be bought, and maybe, just maybe, could become real. I didn't sleep that night. By the 6th month, I had spent nearly $100,000. 100 grand. I told myself it was worth it. That no amount of money could match the feeling she gave me. That maybe, if I played it right, she'd choose me, even after the money stopped. I started planning, not for our next date, but for how I'd tell her I wanted more. No contracts, no arrangement, just her and me. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday. She was supposed to come over. I had flowers, her favorite wine, even cooked, which I rarely do, grilled salmon and roasted asparagus because she once said it reminded her of home. But she didn't show up. No call, no text, nothing. I waited. Midnight came, then 1 a.m. Finally, I messaged her. "Everything okay?" No reply. The next morning, I called the agency. The receptionist answered in that polished tone they always used. "Mr. Cole, how can we help you?" "I need to know if Sienna is okay," I said. She missed our scheduled time. There was a pause. Then, a careful voice said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Cole, but Sienna is no longer available through our agency. She ended her contract 2 days ago." My blood went cold. "What do you mean ended?" "She terminated her services. It's in the client agreement. Companions can choose to exit at any time." I hung up. Just like that, she was gone. I emailed her. Messaged her. Even called once. Nothing. No goodbye. No explanation. Just silence. The woman I thought might love me. The woman I paid to love me. She had vanished. And I was left with nothing but memories and receipts. I sat alone in my apartment for days. Didn't eat much. Didn't shower. Just kept playing those moments back in my head, trying to figure out what was real, if anything. Was she acting the whole time? Did she ever care? Or was I just another client, just another paycheck? Eventually, the answer came, and it broke me. But I'll get to that. They say silence speaks louder than words. Sienna's silence was deafening. I waited for days, checking my phone every few minutes like a fool. I even kept my ringer on at night, hoping maybe she'd call, maybe she'd text, maybe this was all a mistake. But deep down I knew. She was gone, and I didn't know why. But I had to find out. I started where any desperate man would. Social media. She didn't have much of a digital footprint. Sienna Lane, if that was even her real name, had no public Facebook, no Instagram under the name I knew, and the agency was silent beyond their usual customer service wall. But I wasn't completely clueless. One night, back in October, I remembered she had slipped up. We were out at a jazz club in the city, and she got a call. She didn't answer it, but I caught a glimpse of the caller ID. It said, Ava, roommate. I remember that name. Not just the contact, but how Sienna once mentioned her roommate was a nurse, worked long hours, and hated loud music. So, I did something I'm not proud of. I hired a private investigator. Not to stalk her. Not to harass her. I just needed answers. Closure. I had spent $100,000 on this woman. I needed to know if any of it meant something. A week later, the investigator called. I found her, he said. My breath caught. She okay? She's fine. Moved out of her apartment 2 weeks ago. New number. No forwarding address. But she's with someone now. With someone? He hesitated. She's dating a man. Real estate agent. Name's Derek Roth. They've been seen together several times. Coffee shops, a weekend getaway, a few nights in. It felt like the air got sucked out of the room. She's happy, the investigator added, probably trying to soften the blow. No signs of distress. Looks genuine. I didn't know what to say. I just stared at the floor like it might give me an answer. Thank you, I finally muttered. That's all I needed. But it wasn't. Not even close. That night, I poured a drink, then another. I sat by my window, watching the city breathe and blink like nothing had changed. But for me, everything had. I felt used. Stupid. Ashamed. But the worst part? I missed her, even knowing what I knew. I missed the sound of her voice, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, the way she said my name like it meant something. I missed how she made me feel less alone, even if it was an illusion. I missed believing. And for a while, I hated myself for it. A few weeks passed before I saw her again. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon. I was walking through Central Park, trying to clear my head, when I saw them, her and Derek, under a black umbrella, walking hand in hand. She laughed at something he said, and for a second, she looked over and saw me. Our eyes locked, just for a second. She didn't smile, didn't wave. She didn't look away either. She just stared, and in that moment, everything we had, or thought we had, hung heavy in the air. Then she turned her face away, tucked her arm into Derek's, and kept walking. Like I never existed. I wish I could say I moved on easily. I didn't. It took months to feel normal again. To stop wondering what I could have done differently. To stop replaying every moment, every laugh, every soft whisper in the dark. I started therapy. I needed someone to help me sort through the wreckage. I didn't just lose a fantasy. I lost a part of myself I hadn't realized was fragile. My therapist, Dr. Langley, helped me understand something I hadn't wanted to face. I wasn't in love with her. I was in love with the idea of her. The comfort, the warmth, the illusion of being wanted. Sienna wasn't a villain. She played her role. I paid her too. And when it was over, she walked away. It wasn't betrayal. It was business. And I blurred the lines. Looking back now, I know where I went wrong. I was lonely, isolated. I used money to build a fantasy life that made me feel whole. But you can't buy healing. You can't purchase love and expect it to last beyond the transaction. Still, I don't regret meeting her. She showed me what I was missing, what I needed to rebuild within myself. She reminded me that I was capable of feeling, even if those feelings broke me. And the truth? I needed that break. Sometimes, it takes getting your heart shattered by fantasy to wake up to what's real. But the story's not over yet, because just when I thought I had closed that chapter for good, she came back. Uninvited, unexpected, and with her return came a truth I never saw coming. It was a Tuesday. Funny how life's biggest twists rarely announce themselves. They just show up. In the middle of a Tuesday, like a whisper that becomes a storm, I had just finished a work call and stepped out onto my apartment balcony with a cup of cold coffee when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. I'd gotten used to silence. Peace even. Therapy was helping. I'd accepted that Sienna was a chapter one had closed. Or so I thought. But something made me swipe answer. Hello. Silence. Then, a voice I hadn't heard in almost 8 months. Hi, Ethan. It was her. Sienna. I didn't speak. Not because I was angry, but because my breath literally caught in my throat. She continued, her voice soft. I wasn't sure you'd pick up. I almost didn't, I said flatly. I wouldn't blame you, she whispered. There was a pause. And then she said the one thing I never expected to hear. Can we talk in person? I met her at a small cafe near the river, neutral ground. When she walked in, I saw her before she saw me. She looked different, not in a dramatic way, just real. No perfect makeup, no scripty this might. She was in jeans, a cardigan, her hair pulled back in a loose bun. Her eyes looked tired but honest. I stood up but didn't reach for a hug. She didn't either. We just sat down, across from each other like two people with too much unsaid between them. Thanks for coming, she said. I had to see if you were real, I replied. She gave a small laugh, but there was sadness in it. I owe you an explanation, she began. No, you owe me nothing. I paid for service. You ended it. I should have seen it for what it was. Her eyes welled with tears. But that's just it. Ethan, it wasn't just a service. I didn't say anything. She looked down at her hands. What we had started as a job, but it became something else. At least for me. You weren't like the others. You didn't treat me like a fantasy. You talked to me like I mattered. I wanted to believe her. God help me, I wanted to. But you left, I said. No warning. No bouvier. She nodded. Because I was falling for you, and I panicked. That wasn't supposed to happen. I took the money. I walked away. I thought I could forget you. She wiped a tear from her cheek. Then I met Derek. He was nice. Safe. But I couldn't stop thinking about you. You're still with him? I asked. No, she said softly. I ended it 2 months ago. He deserved better than a woman who was emotionally somewhere else. My heart didn't know whether to leap or brace for impact. She reached in her bag and pulled out a small envelope. Inside were 5 checks, each made out to me. I can't return the full amount, but I saved up what I could. This is $35,000. It's yours. I blinked. You don't have to. I want to, she said firmly. Not because you expect it, but because it's the right thing to do. There was a long silence between us, the kind that says everything words can't. I finally asked the question that had been burning in my chest since she called. Why now? She looked up at me with tearful eyes. Because I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't sleep. I ruined something real, and I want to make it right, even if it was too late. We walked by the river after that. Not as lovers. Not as strangers. Just 2 people who had once shared something complicated and beautiful. I told her about therapy, about how broken I'd felt, about how I was healing. Not because I stopped loving her, but because I started loving myself. She smiled. You always had the heart, she said. You just needed to see it. Before we parted, she reached for my hand. Not to hold it, but to press something into my palm. A small note. Don't open it until you get home, she whispered. And with that, she turned and walked away again. Only this time, it didn't feel like the end. When I got home, I sat on the edge of my bed and unfolded the note. It read, if you ever find room in your heart again, I'll be there. No roles. No scripts. Just Sienna. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel regret, or pain, or anger. I felt peace. And maybe the start of something new. Not perfect, but real. They say time heals everything. I don't believe that. Time doesn't heal. Truth does. Forgiveness does. And love when it's honest. When it doesn't have to pretend anymore. It had been 3 weeks since I saw Sienna at the cafe. Since she handed me that envelope. Since she pressed that handwritten note into my palm and disappeared with one last look over her shoulder. I hadn't called her. I hadn't texted. I needed time, not to punish her, but to understand myself. And I did. I looked in the mirror one morning and didn't see a man chasing an illusion anymore. I saw a man who had loved, who had lost, and who had learned. And when I looked into my own eyes, I didn't see sadness. I saw readiness. So I called her. We met at a small bookshop downtown. One of those cozy, hidden gems with soft chairs and the smell of old pages and black coffee in the air. She was already there, browsing poetry. When she saw me, she didn't run. She didn't act like she was in a movie. She just smiled, small and real, and said hi. Hey, I replied. We sat near the back, away from everyone else. I was holding her note in my jacket pocket. I pulled it out and slid it across the table. I read this more times than I care to admit, I said. She looked down, nervous, but I realized something. I continued. I wasn't in love with Sienna, the fake girlfriend. I was in love with the woman who listened to me when I couldn't speak. The one who danced to old music barefoot in my kitchen. The one who made up backstories for strangers at restaurants. She looked up, tears in her eyes. And I don't care if it started as a job. You became more than that. You became the only real thing I'd had in a long time. I'm not perfect, she said, voice cracking. Evelite. I ran away. I reached across the table. So have I said. I lied to myself for years. I bought a fantasy because I didn't think I deserved something real. She closed her eyes, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. So what now? She asked. And I smiled. Now we stop acting. It wasn't a fairy tale after that. Not even close. We took things slow. We went to therapy together this time. We had hard conversations. We argued. We made up. We talked about shame, about money, about what love meant when you stripped away all the roles and expectations. She got a job at a local nonprofit. She started writing again, real stories under her real name. I started helping teens in my community. Those like I once was, lonely, confused, desperate for connection. And sometimes we'd lie on the floor, heads together, fingers intertwined, and talk about that strange, unbelievable story of how we met. How I spent $100,000 and still ended up bankrupt on the inside, until I learned the truth. Love can't be bought, but it can be forgiven. And sometimes, if you're lucky, reborn. So, to all of you listening out there, maybe you're lonely right now. Maybe you're stuck in a fantasy that keeps breaking your heart. Or maybe, just maybe, you're on the edge of something real. Don't settle for the fake version of love. Don't believe the lie that you're unworthy of being seen, known, and loved as you are. Because someone out there doesn't want the perfect you. They want the true you, just like I finally found her. And maybe she found me too. Thank you all so much for being a part of this journey. If this story touched you in any way, please hit that like button, turn on notifications, and subscribe so I can keep bringing more raw, real, and powerful stories straight to you. Until next time, keep believing in truth, keep choosing love, and never forget, your story matters. That's the end.